Hello everyone, it's Brett here, Lionheart 84, and we're in the last day or so of any potential edible figs in the fig season. This is my largest plant, quite a large tree, and it's still got a couple of figs hanging on it right at the beginning of November. Now, one of the problems we've got with figs, because these are main crop figs and they've hung on very well actually. There's one there that looks like it might possibly be edible. Basically the tree is now going into dormancy. You can see all the leaves turning yellow. Now that's happening because the plant is cutting off the sap supply to the leaves. Well, it also cuts off any sap supply to developing figs. So that, combined with the fact that the weather is now turning very cold and the daylight hours are shorter, means that any figs left on the tree, if they're not edible now, basically they're not going to be edible at all, because without that sap supply feeding the fig and making it grow and giving it sweetness, all that's going to happen is you're going to have a fig. If you cut it open, it's completely dried out inside. Now this is one of the last fruits on the tree that might be edible, and if I can reach to it, just about managed to reach to it, I'm going to pull that off. Now that has got a little bit shriveled and some softness to it. It's quite possible that this fig's edible at the beginning of November. So what I'm going to do is pick the remaining ones on the tree that look as if they might just about be edible, and we'll have a look at a couple of them in a minute and see what they're like inside. This one actually does genuinely look as if it's ready, but some of the others I think are going to be dried out inside and not have any juice. But they're starting to go mouldy on the tree now, which means they're obviously not going to be edible. And of course we've now got heavy rain, and have got rain, although it's sunny today. It's been raining it was been raining today, and it's forecast quite a lot of rain for the next few days. Basically we're going to see what happens, and we'll pick the remaining ones off and cut a couple open and see what they look like. So I'll come back to you in a minute. Well, as you can see, I've managed to pick about 6 figs from the tree. 1 or 2 of them may be edible, but what I wanted to show you, which I think you'll be able to see quite clearly, what I was talking about, the sap being cut off from the figs. You can see here that the stem where the fig was on has turned brown, and in actual fact this fig fell off in my hands, and the same goes for this one here. And there's also you'll notice there's no milky sap bleeding out of the stems where I've picked the figs off. That's an indication that the sap flow has completely stopped to the figs. In actual fact, looking at some of these here, this one here looks like that's probably bird damage on the end of the fig. It could be rain damage because we've had excessive rain. I'll be interested to cut this one in half and just see what it looks like inside. Now, as you can see, that's actually very dry. Or at least I hope you can see, that's very dry inside, and there's a large outer ratio of the green flesh to the red centre. Now, it's hard at the base. Personally, I don't think this would be anything edible in this at all, but I'll cut the end of it off just to see. No sweetness, no juiciness, no sugar content. Now, the one that I felt might be edible, this one here, again you can see the brown in the stem, which is where the sap flow's been cut off, and there's no sweetness or energy going into the fruit. But I think this one had just about reached the point where it's edible, so we'll cut this one in half and compare it to the other one. Now you can still see there's a dryness in the fig here. There's no juice in it. The flowers have dried out inside, but some of the red flesh looks quite edible, and so we'll just taste it and see. Now that one's just edible. I still wouldn't say it's a pleasant experience, not like the figs I had a couple of weeks ago. I was hoping to have a couple at the beginning of November, but as soon as the weather turns cold and that sap gets cut off, unless they're in a very, very sheltered, warm position, perhaps in central London against a wall or in a greenhouse or conservatory, you don't get any sweetness or juiciness in the fig. Look at this, we'll have a look at this one as well. Same problem. The fig hasn't developed inside. There's no juice, no sweetness, no sugar content to it, and they'll all be the same. This one I've had to pick off as well. It's a great shame, but it's our climate. All of these are the same thing. Very dry inside. Not edible. I mean, if you're obsessed with making every use of your figs, I suppose you could probably trim these and put them in a saucepan with a little bit of honey or syrup and cook them for half an hour, and they might be edible, but whether or not I can be bothered to do that's another matter. But it's just interesting to see what happens when we get to this time of the year, that no matter how promising the figs look, same problem. Dried out inside, not developed. The only one that was almost edible was probably this one, and even that, to be honest, not really worth the time of day. I know people might try and do something with them, but these will just be going in the bin. But I thought you'd be interested to see that's what happens when we get to end of October, beginning of November, and there's absolutely no warmth and the plant goes into dormancy. Once it's gone into dormancy, you've got very little chance of getting anything edible off the plant. So the main crop figs, really, if you haven't had them by the middle of October, unless you're in freak growing conditions, you're probably going to struggle. Anyway, I thought that might appeal to fig followers. It's getting cold again now, the sun's gone in, the wind's coming up, so not ideal gardening conditions, and I'll try and get some of my tropicals inside, I think. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, always appreciate it. Please give me a thumbs up. You can share the video if you think anyone's interested. Please do subscribe to my channel, and remember to click on the bell if you'd like to be updated as new videos come out. I'll catch up with you all soon. Brett out for now.